Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, beer meets bolognese as we chat to sustainable brewery Beyond Belief about their beers brewed with fresh pasta. I'm Joanne and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. All right, we are very excited today to have Christian with us from Beyond Belief Brewing. Hello, Christian. Welcome.
Hello, guys.
Thank you for coming. Now, we're very excited to talk to you about your beers, which we've got here, because there's something interesting about your beers, isn't there? Do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the brewery, and why we're so interested in your beers?
Yeah, sure. No worries at all. So there is absolutely something slightly different with our beers. So we're Beyond Belief Brewing Co. And we basically, our first range of beers that you guys will be tasting today, they're made from upcycled pasta that would normally end up in landfill from the food manufacturing process. So we basically, like along the whole sustainability sort of story, we wanted things to stop ending up in landfill and wasting energy, sort of turning it into biofuel and stuff like that. So we extract the sugars from actual leftover pasta cuts and we turn it into beer.
That's amazing. I'm excited to. I mean, actually, I've tried both of these beers already.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, had them already. I had them on draft, and I had them on cans. So that'd be interesting to see the slight difference.
I've had them on draft, and I'm really interested to try the third one.
Yes, that is a bit of a curveball, that one.
We didn't have, so we've got a pale ale, we've got a Vienna lager, and we've got a Graf, which is a beer and cider hybrid. And I'm excited for that one. We're going to save that one till last.
Yeah, sure. And I think it comes. I don't know if you guys know sort of the Graf story, but no, it's a really, really interesting story. So it comes from a Stephen King novel. There's a barren land where they don't have much opportunity to grow grain. So Stephen King himself actually invents this style of beer, which is a beer and cider hybrid. So that's where that comes from, actually. Yeah, so a bit of fun in that.
That is exciting.
I
love
really
that.
Like that.
Yeah.
That just makes me like it even. That makes me find it even more interesting.
Oh, good, yeah. Because everybody says that, and they're like, "Where do you get the name from? Like, what is that name?" And we're like, "Oh, there is actually method to the madness."
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I like Stephen King as well, so that's like.
Oh, perfect.
That's brilliant. I remember Joe obviously had met you at Bristol Craft Beer Festival, and I got a message. I did get a message from her you have these. I've been talking to these people. You have to come. I've got to show you them. It's really
for sure.
interesting. So I'm really quite excited when she mentioned about beer with pasta being made out of. I guess how did you know what came first? Was the brewery more of the sustainable brewing practices the first thing, and then the pasta came first, or was that sort of the catalyst that how did you put pasta and beer together?
I'll tell you what, actually, it's a very interesting story. So I was originally the product developer at the pasta company. So home brewing has been my life. Since the age of 18, I've always brewed. I've always enjoyed brewing. Food and drink to me go hand in hand. My background, basically, I studied food science and nutrition at university. So I have a long sort of story of really enjoying food and drink. And so it all started during COVID, just because at the pasta manufacturer we were working at, development sort of slowed down because all of the major supermarkets and retailers, they just wanted to fill their shelves. So of course, during a pandemic, the last thing they were interested in, shall we put some new products on the shelves? So it very much just came about from them sort of putting a hold on the development side of things, and they were just churning out our original product. So it gave us a bit of time to, and obviously being the developer, I saw firsthand that not from any fault of their own, but just from the manufacturing industry, there is byproducts that come from it. We would never be able to completely use all of the pasta. And just from my home brewing background, I knew that there'd be sort of extractable sugars from it. And this quiet time was exactly the time I needed to sort of tell the guys, let's have a go, let's see what we can do, and let's try and make some pasta. And we actually did use pots and pans and old ricotta buckets to start the fermentation process. So it absolutely comes from scratch. We didn't have any fancy equipment at the start. It took me a long time to convince the guys, actually, this will work. We started fermenting literally in old ricotta buckets, and I could see sort of some activity in our airlocks, and we were like, guys, I think we're onto something. So yeah, it all came from that, actually.
That's amazing. I love that your
Did you know
kit
that
was
you wanted
also like made up from bits and pieces that you had around. Like it, you know, a lot of times the breweries are like, oh, you know, we had this kit, or like, but it was actually just your pots and pans and the ricotta pots. That's really fun.
Yeah, really fun. Yeah.
Did you know that you wanted to go like commercial with that, or were you sort of like, let's just see if we can do it, like let's just see how it turns out, or were you like, no, let's like we want to go commercial level with the brewing?
To be honest, I don't think anyone originally believed me. So my original goal was just to prove a point. Like I could be quite stubborn at times, and I was like, I know this will work.
We can
So
brew pasta, and they're like, no, you can't. You're like, I promise you,
I can.
exactly that. And it was just a personal point at the start. Like again, like we were quite quiet and we were trying to work, so we were helping out. And the great thing is, it's like the whole story. Like we did a lot of good things. The pasta company themselves, you know, like we were giving away a lot of stuff to food banks, and we were trying our best to sort of get involved in the community. Like everyone just sort of clubbed together during this pandemic. But yeah, in my sort of off days, I sort of was told I was kind of crazy for trying to do it, and in the back of my mind it was like there I was like, I'm going to show these guys it can work. So yeah, it basically came from there. And I think the first beer I developed will be a bit like the pale ale that you'll try. So that was when the sort of alarm bells went off with everyone else, and they thought, well, actually, you guys, you know, that pale ale you'll try today is very similar to the homebrew pale ale that sort of started the whole story. So obviously a bit personal to me as well. So
right, well, let's
like
crack that
amazing
open
segue.
then. Like,
Yeah, sure,
let's
yeah.
crack that open.
That was the best non-planned segue that we probably could have had, because it was like the pale ale was up first. And
Yeah.
it was like amazing.
There we go. Right, we're going to crack this open.
You're going to be replacing us soon as hosts.
Well, we did a tasting session at the Manchester Festival as well, which went really, really well. Everyone was really engaged, and it was quite interesting to do.
Oh, it smells amazing.
I don't think that I ever would have been like, oh yeah, made with like I don't think
No.
that I would have thought anything different, if you know.
And
what
that's
I mean.
what we're
Like,
hoping,
I never
yeah,
would have
yeah.
gone, oh, that's something different.
So again, you probably aroma-wise, like you should very much get like the sort of light citra hopping in there. It very much is. We could have gone crazy with this pale ale, but you know, we very much wanted to just pay sort of homage to what we originally started. So we didn't go absolutely wacky when we finally turned it into commercial style. You know, it wants to be a bit of a mix between an English and an American pale. So you've got the American hops in there, but again, pretty clean, like pretty easy to drink.
I was going to say, I would definitely say that's easy drinking.
Yeah. And like, if you just gave that to someone and went, this is American Pale Ale, they'd be like, oh yeah. Like, there's no way that you could be like, this is made out of an interesting ingredient. People wouldn't know that
Exactly.
just from drinking
And I think we have such a difficulty in that as well, because you're like, you want to explain the story, but at the same time, you don't want to put people off. So I think if you're not a beer drinker, it's very, very difficult to understand. But if you are, it's like, for us, it's like we want people to know, like, you can recycle it. So it is a bit of a catch-22. Like, do you use pasta as the explanation or not? But then how do you stand out from other brewers without actually explaining to the guys that it's made from pasta? So yeah, we did have a little bit of a sort of catch-22 with that.
Is there some level of like unconscious bias like that people might go in with if you go, oh, it's made out of pasta, and then maybe they're like kind of there picking it apart in a way that they wouldn't have if you hadn't said pasta, to go like, oh, can I taste this, can I taste that, and maybe they'll start going, oh, I'm thinking I'm tasting something that's not there, if you hadn't said anything at all?
I think definitely. I think it's an absolute mixed bag. For definite, there are some people, as soon as you say it, are like, I'm not going to like this, and they've already convinced themselves they're not going to like it. And before they probably have never sort of understood the brewing process themselves, so they don't see how sort of similar the pasta is to your original grain anyway. So that is the problem we have. Yeah, there are some people who they don't like it before they've even tried it. Like, absolutely, yeah. But then there are some people who are just so on board, and they're like, great idea, great story. And I mean, you see the guys from Toast, they're already doing it with bread and stuff like that. So there's no real difference.
Yeah, they do it with bread. They do it with they do it with crumpets. Cereal. Why is this any different? It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Seven Brothers has done. They partnered with like Kellogg's to take
they did like the Sling It Out stout and stuff like that, and it was great to see them guys
really
in Manchester as well this weekend, because obviously as a fan, for me, like, sustainability has always been something that has a personal sort of influence to me. So obviously I already knew the guys, and I knew like the Sling It Out stout and that sort of stuff. So it was great to sort of see them and converse with them as well, and sort of have a conversation about our inspirations and sort of knowing that guys are already doing stuff like that. So yeah, no, it was great. Yeah.
Did they give you any
found that those were really good.
tips?
Not so much, no. We didn't really get that much time to chat though, and obviously I spent most of my time behind the bars.
Yeah.
So just generally as a sort of head of innovation and someone who's a brewer themselves, so that because we're so new, you almost need someone who can explain the story. So yeah, I did spend most of my time in Manchester actually behind the bars. I was very sort of restricted in how much I could get round and try the guys. So yeah.
Just to take it back to what you were saying as well, when you were saying like you almost started because you wanted to prove a point that it was possible to do it. So when you started doing this, was it with people at the pasta company, or was it with was it with friends? Like, who did you actually start having these conversations with?
Yeah, so it was actually the pasta company themselves, and we're really great already. The pasta company, they do give like the waste pasta already to like pigs and animal feed and stuff like that. But we're getting so much, and there was some of it that sort of ends up as biofuel and stuff like that. And just having the extra time to do it, it was to the guys. I was like, they're extractable sugars, and it wasn't necessarily like beer. It was like we could use these sugars for any sort of alcohol. Like we see a lot of people who use potatoes to make vodka and stuff like that. So the initial conversation with the guys was like, can we do something to make it interesting? Yeah, and we always wanted it to be like a new like entity itself. Like we didn't want it to be a pasta beer from a pasta company, because we don't just want to do pasta beer. Like, our message is sustainability. It's not just pasta. This range is great, and this is fantastic. This is our pasta beer range. But in future, we're looking at using so many other carbohydrates to sort of push that message forward as well.
Is there anything you
That was
can?
gonna be my next question.
Yeah, anything you can give us a little sneaky peek about?
Yeah,
already?
of course. And I mean, if you follow us on our Insta page as well, you'll see the store. Like we'll be putting them out there, but we're using potatoes directly. Also carrots, parsnips are another one that we've been playing around with. Yeah, so potatoes has been a great fun actually. Yeah, we've been using like chips and stuff like that, and sort of like slightly mashing them down, adding a bit of like the original wort inside to it, and then just going straight in the mash tun. So yeah, we've been having some real fun with, and the thing is for us, things like potatoes, carrots especially, so much of it ends up in the bin. So they were two that were really close to our hearts, because if you look at like the actual UK's profile of food waste, potatoes is one of the top 5 like mainly wasted ingredients. And I think we just want to show people that really, like you will know when a potato's gone out, like if there's no springs or anything like that, you can see that it's fine to use. And yeah, we just wanted to sort of show like if you can be slightly creative with it and go in with an open mind, like the opportunities are endless to recycle and reuse this stuff. And I mean, we all like a beer, so yeah, for me it's perfect.
When it comes to the pasta, is the pasta just like the surplus in general, or is it like, because I'm thinking about like with Seven Brothers when they've done the Kellogg's one, with those ones it's like there's nothing actually wrong with the product, but for whatever reason it's just not something that can make it doesn't go past the quality checks for like being a visual beauty or something like that, so that's why they can't put it in the box. Is this pasta just purely surplus pasta, or is it just something that's like, oh, maybe visually it's not quite the right shape? Or
I would say it's absolutely a mix of both. So that's what we find just in the manufacturing industry in general, and not just that with supermarkets. Like for pasta itself, like we would generically get some offcuts. Say, for example, when you make ravioli, it's on a machine, almost like a stamp. So you are going to get like sort of offcuts that are just not pot, because every stamp, say you've got a stamp in a line of 6, you have the tiny trim around the edges. And if their next product is gluten-free, for example, obviously there's nothing they can do with that pasta. So yeah, that stuff we use. But also at the same time, there can be the all slightly like manufacturing issue from things like a slight bit of pasta can get caught in the seal of the bag. So because all of the pasta is gas flush for shelf life, if there's a slight hindrance in the seal, or if there's something that slightly deteriorates the seal, supermarkets won't take it. So it'd be absolutely fine to use, really, but it wouldn't have your generic like 30-day shelf life. So things like that, things that were slightly underweight, all of those sort of things. So it is a complete mix of both. Like we don't let any of the pasta go to waste. Like it's completely off cuts. It's good pasta to use, but there's a problem with the bagging machine and stuff like that. So we generally use all of it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's incredibly interesting. Like I wouldn't know anything about. I would have just been like, I probably wouldn't have even thought about that part of the process of like, oh, if it's not 100% like sealed, what do you do? That's really interesting. Something I just wouldn't have known.
I would say as well, like generally, like my love for like food and drink did stem back to like as a 16-year-old doing my GCSEs. Like I was working like at a supermarket, and that's sort of where I realised like how interested I was. But that's where I first saw how much stuff was getting wasted. So that was generally for me the start, and I was like, this is unbelievable. And I knew I couldn't see the manufacturing side of things from that. I could only see like the actual supermarket first hand of side of things. And when I started working at a supermarket, they were selling like home ripening bananas with date life on it. So these bananas were almost green, and then they were being thrown in the bin because they were home ripening, and it just sort of opened a light bulb in my head, really.
I'd hope nowadays that they're a little bit better about it, that things last a little bit longer.
Oh, they're so much better now.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was like 11 years ago, like when I originally started it, and it's more like the upmarket supermarkets, you know, who it is things like that. And I think things like your fruits and your vegetables, we should very, very easily be able to tell whether or not a banana is easy, like if you can eat this banana or not. I don't think we should almost need, and I know supermarkets do that now, and a lot of bananas do not have like shelf life on them. But yeah, like generally when I first started in the industry, they did, and it was just, it was really baffling to me. So
yeah. That's really interesting.
Have you like through playing around with some of the stuff, have you kind of gone, so we've got the pale ale, which is literally, this is very sessionable. There is like that bitter, I will say there's like that bitterness there.
Yeah, which we wanted to carry through,
100%, like, and it feels like it would be really good. This is one of those, the bitterness level is such that it would be really good for like snacking. Social, like I feel like it's very sessional, very socializing, like beer, having some snack. 4.7%. This is like, it's sunny out, it's nice out, you just want to have some friends around to have a few drinks. Like I could 100% see that you could get like a whole case of this and like sort of drink through it all just friends and not even realise.
Well, exactly that. And I think with the amount of food waste that you see, like generically, we don't want to make a beer that you know, you might only have one or two of. Like when there is food waste to recycle, we're like, well, let's try and make something that people can have 4 or 5 or 6 of, so that we can actually fully utilise like the pasta waste. So that was sort of the thinking behind that as well. Yeah.
So you've had that pale, and then obviously so we've got the Vienna and we've got the Graf. Like, did you find that you've played around with different styles and gone like, this definitely works with this and this definitely doesn't? Or have you found that kind of all the different styles you've attempted to make have turned out actually like more or less okay? Like, what does that process look like? Do you brew something and then go, oh, it needs a little bit more of this, or maybe it's not suited for this particular style?
Do you know what? I haven't actually found like any difference in any style. So like development wise ourselves, we're also looking at a stout and a sour beer as well. Nice. And I haven't sort of noticed anything. I mean, the only major difference is obviously with your stouts, when you're using more speciality malts, you've got less extractable sugars from the extra malt. So it's more of just sort of the playing around in that sort of sense. But generically, no, like I think that's the great thing about it. We can do anything we want, really, like, and we are looking to sort of expand that range, and we want the pasta beer range to just have a range of, you know, we're also looking at like a Belgian style, like a saison or something like that. Honestly, like opportunities are endless. They really are.
So I feel like you say like saison, Belgian.
Yeah, we're there. We're there. So a Vienna lager.
Great, yeah, love you guys to see it. Yeah.
A Vienna lager is one of my favourite styles. What made you pick a Vienna lager over any other style?
Because it's my favourite again. Absolutely my favourite lager. As sort of head of innovation, the developer myself. So I wanted to keep it fun. We were looking, and again, we wanted to do like, we're thinking maybe do we do like an Italian like dry hopped Pilsner? But I was like, that is just way too much, you know, it's just too gimmicky. And
that's too on the nose, isn't it?
Like, yeah.
We're going pasta, we're going Italian.
Yeah, exactly that. And we wanted to keep it cool. And like for me, it's just more the introduction into the style to people, because a lot of the guys I was working with at the time at the pasta company wouldn't have known what a Vienna style was. So I really wanted to sort of show the versatility of lager. And I think for us, like the pasta story is already crazy enough. So to do a lager, I just wanted to show some character. And for me, it's absolutely my favourite style. And I would say that Vienna lager is my baby, because that was one that a lot of people were like, you know, dark lager, amber lager. They weren't introduced to the style enough. So it was very much sort of a bit of like toing and froing between the guys to actually be able to get that out there. So I think generally that has a lot of sort of personal meaning to me as well.
I like that. I mean, it was Sam Adams Vienna lager that got
Exactly.
me into beer. So
Yeah.
it's one of my faves as well. Should we
Oh,
crack
that's
that
amazing.
open now?
Yeah, get it open. Yeah,
Let's crack it
sure.
open, let's crack it
I'm
open.
almost done. Like this, I'm not even
Yeah.
lying to you. This is
It's
what's
gone.
left of the can of the pale.
Oh, that's
Like,
great. That's
I was,
great.
like,
I appreciate it,
trying
guys.
to not
Thank you.
I was like, just like pace yourself. And then I was like, but I just want another sip.
God.
Like, let's hold on. Let's open another one.
And again, yeah,
This was the one I had
4.2%.
first, was this?
Super easy to drink. And like, I guess the difference between the pale and the Vienna, which is something that, aside from the fact it's my favourite style, kind of wanted to showcase the fact that you can have a really clean, easy drinking pale ale, and you can sort of let the hops talk with the pasta.
Yeah.
The pasta can be your base malt, and you can let the hops talk. And then the Vienna, you know, there's a little bit of toffee in there, a little bit of caramel malt, and like you really get sort of like that flavour through, and it's like the malt can talk as well as the hops. So we just wanted to showcase the absolute versatility of the pasta itself.
It's
Well,
such
I
a
quite
beautiful
like-
colour.
I was gonna say what I quite liked about it as well was that you don't often find that somebody's like one of the first range that they do includes a Vienna.
Yeah,
And that's what I found was quite interesting. Is like it's very rare. Like usually, if you get a Vienna lager, it's like somebody's either specialising in lager or they've done a few different things, and now they're trying a Vienna lager. So like
Yeah.
the fact that this is sort of like right out the gate is a Vienna lager is just like for me that makes it even more interesting. So I think when I went up to the stand, it was like you had the Vienna and the pale ale.
That's right, yeah.
And I was like, I went right for the Vienna. Like
Oh,
first
me
one.
too,
So
yeah.
because I was like, you don't often like. It's very rare that someone's taken their Vienna lager with them somewhere, especially that being one of your first beers. And it was really, really nice.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, but again, it was just about that. Like, yeah, again, you've got like some crystal malt in there, you've got some caramel malt, and very, very, very sessionable. Like a lager should be, in my opinion. You know,
Yeah.
like a lager should be something that you should be able to have 5 or 6 of. It should be so easy drinking, and I know we've got some darker malts in there, and you get a bit more of a heavy flavour. But again, it's something that you should be able to pick up, try, and be like, oh, actually, I really like that, and come back for another one. So yeah, that was sort of that style from that.
Those caramel notes come through.
They do, don't they? Yeah.
Really
So
do.
hard.
Yeah.
It is really lovely. It's like you almost kind of. I think that's the thing as well. Is like for some people, if they're not familiar with kind of what they're going to get into as well, they might see because sometimes at beer festivals, some people are going because they're just friends of someone else that's going.
Yeah, of course.
And they're
yeah.
like, let's go, it'll be a good social thing. And they go, I like lagers. And then they might see, oh, Vienna lager, I'll go lager, that says lager on it.
Yeah.
And then they might get that. And this is not necessarily
No,
what they're
exactly.
expecting.
Yeah.
And we didn't just want to do a halfway house of Vienna lager. We were like, look, guys, if we're doing this Vienna lager, like, it's got to sing to you. Like, you have to get all of that. Like, we want the real amber color. And I would say Vienna lager, but also for me, it was like, again, like the Sam Adams and the Brooklyn lager style that also influenced it. We wanted a real sort of American hop characteristic to come through, like really sweetness, but then stay true to the sort of Vienna style. So I know a lot of Viennas you see out there are probably a bit more light in color than ours, but we really wanted, you know, to go really bold with it and sort of and let it stand out a bit. Yeah.
The colour is absolutely beautiful.
It is great, isn't it?
It is gorgeous. Proper amber.
It
And it's
poured
got-
really well as well. The
Yeah.
head that was on
Great.
it.
I'd like to say so,
beautiful
yeah.
foamy head. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's really beautiful. And it is
And yeah,
it's
we
really
just-
drinkable.
We did just look at that as well, and like the different avenues. And when we were looking at the different styles of Vienna, or like the different sort of brewing styles of Vienna, and how like open of a book it is, and like how you can sort of play to whatever tune you like with it, and that sort of was that sort of side of things for us. Yes, we've got some American hops in there, which you might not traditionally see in a Vienna lager, but just to sort of balance it out. And again, yeah, we just wanted to make something fun and sort of true to the style, and just out there as well, a bit bold, a bit different.
That's good for sustainability as well. It's using a slightly newer hop in it as well, because
Yeah,
traditionally it would have your older hops in it, and you know,
yeah.
Dr. Doom and Gloom here
I was
keeps
just
pointing
trying
out
not to
that
laugh because the last few episodes that we've recorded, she's been like, "Oh, you like SARS? Yeah, I hope you like
No,
SARS
yeah.
because
Yeah.
guess what?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
like, you know, the
That,
German and the Czech hops are not doing too well with climate
No.
change, and
Yeah,
like
of
so,
course.
you know, normally you'd use like Tettnanger,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe some
yeah.
Hallertau, maybe something like that, and it's
Yeah.
like, but using slightly newer hops is a more sustainable way to go because they're being bred so that they can withstand climate change and things. So that's from a sustainability standpoint, that's a really good way to go.
And you know what? Honestly, I think they complement like the malt characteristics
Yeah.
so well. I think like they just like complement the aroma so much, and you just do get that. It just sort of just keeps the balance with the sweetness, and you do get this sweetness that elevates slightly. So again, that was another sort of thinking behind that as well.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Yeah, so you sort of mentioned as well about like this kind of sprouted out of like after COVID, and there was the like surplus of stuff that kind of happened. Then what was it sort of like deciding in a COVID time period that you were like, I guess I'll start up a brewery? Like, did you have any particular challenges, or actually, given kind of what you were utilizing there, was that almost, no one wants to say COVID was helpful by any means, but like, did that sort of help in a way because there was that surplus there, or what was that like?
I would say it had like its lucky points, but also its challenges. The most challenging point was actually starting it at that time. There's nowhere we can get like our brews out to customers or suppliers. Like nobody was looking for a new beer. No one was looking for anything different. People just wanted to fill up supermarket shelves. I mean, as we all saw, we were running low on like our basic essentials. So the challenge in that was like, how do we push this out there after that? But again, it gave us the time to actually focus on it, or for me personally, to be able to focus on it and come up with some cool styles and some new ideas. So yeah, I would say it was a very, very balanced sort of side of things. And for us, obviously, as you see, we're very, very new. I mean, we officially launched in June. So like the Bristol Festival was like our first sort of launch point. That was when we were sort of very happy with what we had and what we're doing. And that's when we were like, look, we're confident enough now to get this out there. So I think, yeah, very, very lucky. It probably slowed us down a year. I think if it wasn't for COVID, we probably would have been able to get that out there a year sooner. So yeah, I think it very much swings and roundabouts. Like, gave us the opportunity to do it, but yeah, probably did slow us down a year.
Do you think it gave you the opportunity to kind of develop things a bit because of that, having more time before you could put it out there? Did it give you the opportunity to kind of develop it a bit further than maybe you would have done?
I think so, 100%.
Yeah.
I think, especially originally my job, I was a product developer at the pasta company. So like my heart was always in beer, like food and drink generally, but my heart was always in beer. And like I was sort of chomping at the bit to be like, oh, let's have a go. And without doubt, if COVID would have ended a year sooner, I probably wouldn't have been able to sort of express some personality with the beer. Like we wouldn't have been able to do 5 or 6 trials ourselves. And so once we convinced the guys from Pots and Pans, we got like a small 30-litre cast iron kit. So that's when I was really able to sort of elevate the beer to levels like that. And we, as like food manufacturer goes on, we probably wouldn't have had time to do that. So it might not have even been something that got out the gates really. So yeah, that's quite funny, I'd say.
It's interesting though what you're saying about like, yeah, there was like a point when COVID first started when it was like people were just like, oh, we want to get the beer out, we need to get beer on. Like nobody wanted to try new things. Everyone was like, we just need to put sort of stuff out there. And I just remember like thinking back, it feels forever ago now.
It does,
and it like when you look at how many years past we are now, it's like since it first started, like it's insane. But I remember there being like the rumor that was going around that was like, we're gonna have a lockdown, no one's gonna be able to go out. And I can laugh about it now because it's like we're so far removed from it, but I remember like one of the last things that I did was I was like, I need to go out and I need to pick up beer. And
yeah, it's really funny. Yeah.
But like everyone thought like, oh, it's only going to be like a few months.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember going out and I was like, just get one big F-off box of beer. This will last me for like the whole time, and like this will be fine. And I remember coming home with my haul and being like, and there's some there, and there's some of that, and it's great. And yeah, like that's interesting what you're saying about like people not sort of trying new, being reluctant to try new things because you almost don't want to like rock your market when you can't get out there and get to. Because I think like, to be fair, the online sales only kind of really sort of ramped up when it was COVID and people couldn't.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess in some ways it sort of opens new markets to you, but initially there's probably that like no one knows what to do here and no one wants to take chances. So
yeah,
it's interesting though that you were like I think that's a positive thing that you still chose. Like I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to try it out.
I would say the best thing about it is like I was living in South London and the pasta company's in like around Hertfordshire ways. So at the time, like when the lockdown like first struck, I almost had the opportunity to get furloughed, and it was sort of one of those things. I was like, because it's quite a long commute. Like being in the heart of South London, I was in Clapham at the time, so literally in the heart of South London, and it was a ghost town. And I was like, I can't be commuting to like work every single day. It's just crazy times. So yeah, they gave me the opportunity to actually. They have a flat round the corner, like they sort of own like the area as well. So yeah, I could have been furloughed, or I got the opportunity to move over to the guys over there and just sort of stay closer to work and actually push this forward. So it was like one of those sort of situations where you sit around for a day and a half and you're like, well, a lot of people are just enjoying themselves, getting furloughed, getting paid, and just sort of sitting around and having fun. And I was like, do I do that, or do I actually push this and something that I care so much about? And it was like, I knew that this opportunity would be here. So yeah, it was like a 50-50 sort of crossroads moment that really pushed it forward, which I think is such a great story as well, that, you know, you could look 2 years down the line and I wouldn't have been here because I could have just said, actually, you know, I'd probably rather take it easy and just get furloughed. So yeah, really, really funny, actually.
There's like another universe where you decided to be furloughed and you just made banana bread.
Exactly, yeah, and then who knows what I'm doing now? Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The biggest banana bread maker.
Actually, I can do a cracking banana bread. So don't worry. As a food science nutritionist, like I do have food skills as well. So like we learned our culinary skills modules as well. So yeah, don't doubt my banana bread either.
I'm a banana bread fan, so like, you bring out a banana bread beer. You bring a banana bread beer, and I'd be like, absolutely. That's what you need to do. Like, you need to do making like baked goods or something, and then like a beer to go alongside it, and like a banana
pairing.
Would be,
well, the first one I did was like a wheat beer, and the thing is nobody understood the idea of it though, and like especially the guys here, like at the pasta company, they weren't beer drinkers. So when I did like a really sort of and again, like, if you guys like your wheat beer, you know, like, you get the banana and clove from it, so it very much distinguishes that. And obviously, using the pasta, we thought was a no-brainer. I'll do a wheat beer, but it just at the time, it just wasn't understood right enough, and like something that we'll definitely do down the line. But you know, I think people were just picking out off flavors from the pasta that wasn't even there, but just because they weren't sure about the wheat beer. So yeah, that was something that I'd love to go back to do, because that was like another original style that we looked at, but it was just like people just aren't getting it really.
Yeah,
I would say like how you guys were saying that Vienna lager is like your top favourites. It's like for me, my first favourite beer of like proper beer was probably like a wheat beer. Like
nice, no way.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, like 100%. It was just definitely like wheat beer for the longest time in my when I lived in the US in my earlier drinking days. It was like the majority of what I'd go for would be a wheat beer of some sort, like any wheat beer I'd
Oh, nice.
That's what I'm gonna have. So for me, you say wheat beer and I'm like, yes, absolutely, I'm in.
Well, I wish you guys were around a bit sooner, because obviously then that wheat beer will probably be out now.
We'll do the taste testing of
exactly. It'll probably be on the shelves right now.
So whereabouts now are you located? Like in terms of like, I guess the business, are you located like back sort of towards London way, or are you?
No, so we're Hertfordshire. Yeah, so literally just around the corner. There. So we have our own. We got our home plot now, because the guys that I work with who have come on the beer side of things for me, it was sort of they, you know, we were there. A lot of those guys are either sort of North London based or around Hertfordshire, because again, like Hertfordshire, like is very very close to North London, so a lot of them were from that area. So it just sort of fits everyone else themselves. I'm not myself, but I sort of don't mind the commute so much. But yeah, we're sort of in the middle of building our own sort of office space and small tap room at the moment. So yeah, it's been going really really well. Like we've got a local artist who's sort of bringing the Beyond Belief like logo and to life. It's going to be very wacky. It's going to be very out there, sort of like neon painted, like some really cool lights, and you know, it's just going to represent our brand really really well, and it's just going to show that we're not really worried about sort of the mainstays and stuff like that, and it's going to represent us, which I think will be really cool.
I feel like you are just helping to lead me into the next questions, and I'm like literally the questions are you are smashing it, because I feel like the next question you've just set me up really good.
I promise I haven't done this before. This is not previous.
I mean, professional. Like this is great. Before we do that, do we want to have the last one? Because I'm really really excited.
Come on then.
Sure, yeah, right, yeah. And I'd love to talk to you about this, yeah, because again, this was one myself, which was a difficult one to explain. So I am obsessed with different beer styles. So before I started in product development, before I went to university, I was lucky enough. I've travelled the world. I've done a craft brewery in 6 out of 7 continents. Well, every continent that has a craft brewery in the world, I've done. Antarctica doesn't yet. So yeah, and this was something that just along my travels and just what I picked up. I know apple is normally an off flavor in beer, so that is something that people are a bit confused about. But for us, I'm a beer man. I couldn't make a cider. Eventually down the line, but I was like, I really wanted to show like the collaboration and again, like we love the idea from Stephen King, and it had a story behind it. So it wasn't something that I just dug out from the sky. I sort of found it, and again, this was a difficult one for the guys to really get on board with because they really weren't sure. But I think you can have it over ice, like a cider, or you can chill it and have it sort of like a beer mix, very dry, like tart. But yeah, see what you guys think.
Ooh.
I don't think that comes through like an off flavour at all.
No.
I think like you can tell when something is an off flavour. I guess maybe if it's somebody that doesn't like you were saying before, it's someone that doesn't normally drink beer, so maybe in their minds they're like, this is not beer. I don't know, but I don't think it comes through like an off flavour. It's really interesting.
And I would say the most interesting thing about this is so we use 33% recycled pasta and 33% recycled apples. So we actually throw the apples in just after mashing. So they go in and obviously because they are literally raw apples that we've juiced, they go in the boil sort of, so we pasteurize along that line. So again, there's no process with the apples before. Yeah. Like we actually, we don't use any additives, there's no nasties in it whatsoever. It is literally pure pressed apple juice, and then 2 days later it goes into the boil. So literally is that, like, we didn't want to just grab apple juice from the shelves or anything. These are things that are literally mashed straight into juice and then they go straight into the boil. So
I think that dryness is the cidery dryness.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
It's really like, I think if you really if you do like cider, I feel like this is like the perfect beer for you as well because it.
And I think we will definitely have some changes, but like traditionally, Bramley apples are tart cooking apples.
Yeah.
So we didn't just want to go and just pick pink ladies, things that generally aren't available to waste. Like Bramley's an English apple, and it was the availability. So the tartness you get is that Bramley apple style, because if you do bite into a Bramley apple, it is sour, it is quite tart. So that's where that comes from. Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, you can taste that. It's like you're biting into an apple.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and it's brewed like a pale ale, like very much traditional brewing styles. As I say, like the only difference is we just add apple juice straight into the boil. So like we don't pasteurize it. It doesn't go through another sort of process that makes it like more unsustainable. Like these are just picked from the floor juice and they go straight in. And our pasteurization is the boiling process.
It's that thing that I'm really trying to describe it for anyone that's like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'm like interested in it, but it's so difficult to describe because I'm like, there is it feels there's very clearly like a beer element to it.
Yeah.
There's very clearly a cider element to it.
Well, there is a bit of citra in there as well. So there is a bit of citra hop in there, just because again, like the apples are so tart, and we eventually will be looking around, and I think the opportunity for us now is going to be great because we can go and pick some more red apples, some dessert, and there are some dessert apples in there as well. So you get some tannins in there, so you might get a mouthfeel like wine almost. It's where it sort of aids the dryness. So yeah, you might see the tannins come through. And this was our sort of first limited edition beer, and we just basically gathered the apples that we could get hold of. So in future, going down further down the line, we'd like to sort of elevate this a little bit more, maybe add some sweeter apples in there and sort of just balance it out a little bit more. But I'm a fan, again, I quite like it myself. So
yes, good. I think there's like the mouthfeel of it is the beer element.
Yeah,
because it's not as like thin, let's say, as a cider. But then you get that lovely, like the crispness of the apple in there. It's really lovely. Very. I
think it's a story. Yeah, like, it takes you on a journey. It as soon as it goes down, like you do feel the elements of it. They sort of come together. So
I feel like this would pair really well with like a cheese, like a cheddar.
Ooh, yeah.
Exactly that.
Like, I feel like I'd want to eat. Well, so me, I am also a massive food person, probably to my own detriment because I'm trying to eat food all the time, and probably not like foodie where people you're probably like, I know all the like really positives. I'm just like, I just like to eat. I just like to eat, and I like to eat really good food.
Yeah.
So, to me, I had this, and I was like, this would be amazing with like a really nice like sharp cheddar.
Oh, I think so. Again, definitely. Yeah. It cuts through it really, really well, and we are looking to do that as well. Like what we would like to do next is like we want to bring out some pairings with it. Like we want to show, and not just like your generic pasta dishes and stuff. Like we want to show like the sort of versatility in that sense, and bring together all the things that I love. As I said, the same as you, Tori. Like I'm a massive food fan, so I want this to be enjoyed like in ways. And just show people like how you can bring out different beer flavors with food, because as we know, like beer and food pairings are just like wine now. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely see that as the future. Like people are pairing their beers with food, and it's something that we love to do. And sort of, especially in our tap room, coming from the pasta side of things, we do really want to show people like the blend and how they do work in perfect harmony. So really, that's sort of what we would like to do. Yeah.
Did you talk to
I
Round
remember like years
Corner
ago.
while you were at the festival, like with their beer and cheese pairing?
A
their
lot,
pork
yeah,
pies and
yeah,
everything?
yeah.
Need to go and get some
Yeah, yeah,
tips from
'cause I
those
saw them in
guys as
Bristol
well.
again. Because I was, yeah, like I was a lot busier in Manchester myself, so I didn't get round to Round Corner. But yeah, no, we saw them before, and yeah, they had like the Melton Mowbray pork pie, because they're from Melton Mowbray, around that area, aren't
Yeah,
they? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we saw them with the cheese and the pork pies and stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah, amazing. And again, it is just that, like, it just brings it to life. It's just a different story as well. So yeah, no, we like those guys. So yeah, we'd definitely love to get there and sort of maybe
Yeah.
talk about it a bit further.
I think I remember going into London because there was like, this was years ago, like this was definitely pre-COVID years ago. The Lagunitas did like something over
Yeah, of
here,
course. Yeah.
and they were like, oh, we're having, if you win this contest, you know, you can win tickets by entering something. And it's basically, you go to this pub in London where they'd have a menu that was like tasting of these like special Lagunitas beers with food. And I happened to get like 2 tickets. I won like 2 tickets to that. And that, to me, like that event was really cool because it was like they paired the menu. They had multiple courses where it was like starter, main, like another little tasting dish, and then like a pudding. And they did it all with a beer to go with it. And they had somebody there sort of explaining. So it was like a big, I don't want to say family style, like it was a family style table in the sense of like everyone was at one big table.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like they'd come out and bring individual dishes.
Yeah,
and
sure,
it was
sure.
really cool because they would like be like, here's the beer, I'm going to tell you about the beer. Here's the food you're going to get. Here's why we picked this dish with this particular beer, and here's what you should get when you put the like. They let you have the beer first, drink it, have the food, and then go, oh, this is what they're supposed to do together. And I always felt like that would be an experience if like somebody was going to do a tap room that sort of like had that experience. I would 100% like pay to go to another one of those like food and beer pairing experiences.
And I think, again, no,
often.
exactly. And I think there's more chance when you do stuff like that to involve people who originally might not think there's a beer for them, because straight away you can engage them and you can show them, look guys, well, this is what we with food, and it's like, I know you might not like this beer, but try it in this process, try it this way. And I think it's genuinely such a good way to engage people and get them involved in beer and get them tasting it. Because I mean, originally myself, I grew up on cask. Like when I was 18, 19, there were no IPAs on tap, you know, it was for your traditional lagers or cask. So like, I very much came from that, and I grew up like Buckinghamshire, the Chilterns way. So like the Chilterns Brewery is a very, very old-fashioned brewery around the corner from where like my parents originally lived, and they did the same, and they had like the old-fashioned like tankers and stuff like that, and you could get cheese and local chutneys, and all of that sort of stuff has taken me on the journey to where we are now, and we just want to give it a bit more of a modern craft beer twist. But we will look to kegs as well, because that's something that's close to my heart also, because I did grow up on sort of cask beer, so yeah, I have a soft spot for it now.
Got to. We all missed cask during lockdown because it was the one
I
thing
know,
you
I know.
couldn't really replicate at home. I love that it's getting a bit of a resurgence now because we couldn't have it before. We're like, we're all just going to go and drink cask now.
I hope so, because I even saw when we were out, we went to one of like the old school pubs around Manchester, and they had 2 tribes. You know, the guys from King's Cross.
Yeah.
They had them on cask as well, and it was just fantastic. Like the beer was absolutely quality. You know, like you got all of the traditional cask elements, but then you get that American sort of hop style, and I think that there's just so much that we can have in connection with that. So yeah, I hope to see sort of a resurgence, and by the looks of things, there is. So yeah, I think it'd be really good.
I do just want to say as well, like the point about the tartness as well, that there is that tartness, but I want to be very clear for anyone that's listening that is normally like, I don't like, when they think tart and they think like sour.
Oh, of course,
that
yeah.
is not like it's if you're a person that doesn't tend to like sour, that type of tartness, it is not that type of like tartness. Like you have to think of like you said, like the apple, like
Yeah, exactly.
softness of the apple.
Yeah.
Because I think like that's really important to know. Because some people might go, oh, when I drink a beer that's tart, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I would say like if you like cider and that type of tartness, like you probably will like this, because this is surprisingly, like I said, I didn't know what to think. When I say surprising, I just mean the sense of
don't worry.
I don't know what to think about. Like I didn't know what to expect, and it is like so sessionable and so drinkable that you're just a bit like.
I really enjoy it over ice. Like, I drink it in the summer.
Yeah.
Again, like I have a lot of friends who are cider drinkers. For me, getting these beers out here has been really difficult because a lot of my friends aren't as interested in beer as I am. It's not always for everyone. So I'm like, guys, try this, and they're like, no, and I'm not sure. And this was one again that it just wanted to bring through the sort of. I wanted to make beers that some of my cider drinking friends can like, because a lot of them don't drink beer, and I wanted to really like. My idea was like, no, I can't make a cider because then it doesn't show you that you could like beer also. So I really, really wanted to get something that my cider fans could drink as well. So that was sort of the story behind that as well, because I had a lot of my friends, my local friends, who were just like, we're not really into like the craft beer scene, but we love cider. Like we just drink cider. So I was like, oh, trust me, I'm going to change that. So yeah, it's a bit of that. So, a bit of that stubbornness.
Good job.
To circle back around to what so originally when I said this is a great segue, the reason I was going to say that is because you mentioned about wanting to open up, like, looking to open up a tap room and having like a really great local artist that was going to, take your logo and paint it. I wanted to know, where did the space theme sort of come into play with all of it?
So it basically is like Beyond Belief in that sense. At the first, like when we originally got the beers out, a lot of people were like, this is unbelievable. I'm like, well, we can't call it unbelievable. So it was just sort of a play on that. And again, Beyond Belief came, and it just, as soon as we got the name Beyond Belief, which we sort of decided on a few years back, because that was just the feedback we were getting from people. It was like, this is crazy, this is quite strange, like Beyond Belief. So it just stuck with that. And we were like, well, if it's Beyond Belief, we just wanted to push the space theme and make it a bit more like, beyond belief, like beyond your norms, beyond the normal realm and stuff like that, if you would like. So it just came from that, really, something that we had an interest in. And I think it's very easy to sort of use the space theme in beer. I think there's a lot that you can do with it. So it was something that we just had some fun, and like the spaceman characteristic, it just kind of worked for us, and we just all liked it, really. But there was a slight method to the madness. Like it was just sort of the beyond belief, beyond difference. So sort of came from that.
I think so. I quite liked the way that like I liked how you've done like the spaceman and stuff. Like it feels like branding wise, it feels like it's a really, like it feels like it makes it. This is gonna sound really weird, but it's like it feels like it makes sense in the sense of like how you've done it as well. Like design wise, you're like, oh yeah, I could see this as
thanks.
beer design. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you might see something and you go, oh, I don't picture that image going with that product. But it just felt like it all just worked, like it felt like it all just made sense and just worked together like so well.
I'm glad you say that, because it was something like us as well. It's like we didn't use any sort of middle companies or anything like that. We didn't use a branding agency. It's something that generally just came from us guys just sort of enjoying what we like, and it was like, well, we actually quite like this. We like the story, and we just think the story fits. So it was all sort of all from ourselves, and I think you can sort of see our personality, and definitely see from the beers themselves. Like I think there's a lot of our personality in the style of beers, well, me personally anyway. So it was sort of that, like we want this company to be out there for everyone. Like it's great that we're making good beers, but we also want to raise awareness about like how we can all cut down on food waste, and like how if you can just be slightly more creative, like there is a whole world of opportunity to do things with stuff that people are throwing in the bin. So it's generally like that as well. So we don't just want to stop at like the beer, the pasta side of things. We want to start this to be a story that everyone can get involved in and sort of enjoy and come along with us. Yeah.
Love it. Going back to the using carrots and parsnips, I think I've seen like an old recipe that was for parsnip beer. Have you found any like historical recipes or older recipes that kind of influence what you're doing, or is it just you're like, right, I'm going to use these ingredients and see what happens?
There was a German style potato beer that I was lucky. I think they call it a Kartoffel beer. So I believe like a long time ago, it was a beer that was actually used. I don't know so much about the modern style of it. I know I found it very difficult to find recipes, which has also been the fun part, because there are sort of talks, and there are like the floating ideas around. But yeah, generally the potato beer was something that I had seen just from historical records in Germany, and it was just an absolutely sort of off the cuff idea when we were looking at it, and we were I was watching something about potatoes getting thrown in the bin, and we can believe it, and I was like, I'm sure I've seen someone do a potato beer before. So like the idea like was already in the back of my mind, but yeah, and it just was very much like spur of the moment. Parsnips not so much, carrots not so much, pasta especially not with fresh pasta. We didn't see anything. Like even trying to Google it, you get people who are making like beer sauces from pasta.
Yeah.
So
Pasta,
yeah, if anything, it was throwing us off the idea, if more
Yeah.
than anything. But yeah, a lot of it very much just comes from the look to innovate as well. And like, we're very, very creative here. And like, if it doesn't work, we're not too worried about that. Like, we're not in a rush. Like, we really just want to try and do things that can actually have a positive impact. We just don't want to do it for the sake of it. Like, we're not just going to use anything and add it into the process where it's not really giving us anything or it doesn't really change the beer. Like, this is something that we will really believe in. So, you know, if we're going to use the ingredient, it has to genuinely have an impact on the beer. We're not just going to add it in the fermentation process to give a slight carrot flavour or anything like that. You know, it's got to be something that can actually give a positive impact to the beer.
And would you? So I know Toast put some of their recipes out like homebrew size so that people could do it at home. Are you thinking about possibly putting that out so that people can have a go at reducing their food waste at home as well?
We would love to, and the great thing is we did almost just as a sort of precautionary measure to protect ourselves. Is we have a UK patent approved for the using of like fresh pasteurized pasta. So we use fresh pasteurized pasta, so it's all gone through that process of the steaming process. So yeah, we actually have our UK patent approved. So without doubt, we are going to put it out there, and we're going to show people that if you're about to throw this pasta in the bin, you can do it on like pots and pans like we started. So obviously we'd like to go further down the line and show like the class line approach, like the real homebrewing approach. But also, yeah, the same like Toast. Like we definitely just want to show you how you can open a bag of pasta, throw it in, extract the sugars, and go with it. So yeah, no, without doubt, we're just sort of getting to that point now. So yeah, you guys, eventually, if you see the story, yeah, without doubt, probably in the next few months, you'll see the story up there yourself. And yeah, you guys have got to have a go.
Yeah,
Genuinely,
we
we
I
have a
can go
really
round
easy to
Joe's
follow
and
Yeah,
recipe.
you
we
come
can
round
go
to
home
mine
with it,
and
yeah.
we'll get home brew.
Have a cook something nice.
I made pasta at home. I made some lasagna sheets and basically we had a few left over and it was only a handful and we froze them and then we ended up basically needing some freezer space. They had been sat in there for quite a while and they were all, what had happened is in the process there was only a few and they had broken up and I was like, there's not really anything we can do with it.
Yeah.
And then we ended up binning it, unfortunately, because we were like, it's just, it's broken. There was only a handful. We can't do anything with it.
Yeah, of course you would. I mean, we all would.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I wish I had kind of thought about this because I was like, I could have just kept it and been like, Joe,
Make some beer.
whether or not it would work with like homemade pasta as opposed to pasta made in a specific way, I don't know. But
Well, I think we find that specific to our process is sort of the pasteurization process sort of allows the sugars to be extracted. So it very much is that sort of it holds its shape. So and that is the pattern that we have is like the actual like the pasteurized fresh pasta, and it doesn't just cover pasta. So it's just like anything that's gone through that sort of pasteurization process. It's a dough or a carbohydrate. So I think it was just more something that we did to protect ourselves because we were like as a few young guys like how on earth are we going to show people to do this without someone coming over and just absolutely like taking it to another level. So we really wanted to make sure we had some protection about that because we don't want it to be used in the wrong way, and we would hate that, and we would hate it to just be a gimmick or a marketing ploy, which was our initial concern, is that if somebody takes this idea, they are probably just going to pretend and not use waste pasta, and they're just going to use things and buy stuff from supermarkets and pretend that it's waste. So yeah, generally that was that really.
That's sensible.
Absolutely. And how many of you are there? Because you said like kind of like you and the guys. Like how many of you are there in the actual business now? Like how many people do you have? What do you guys?
So we have like there's like 5 of us. We have like a head of branding, a head of sales, me, and then we just have one of the pasta guys along as well. Like a sort of commercial director, and then we have someone who helps us out with like the initial branding ideas as well. So yeah, there's just 5 of us. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is like, so with the like potatoes and stuff. because obviously with this, you kind of started off like with the pasta company. Like when you go to get the potatoes and turnips and the carrots, like where do you go to source those? Like, do you go to a supermarket? Do you work with like how does that? I'm really just if you can't answer, that's fine. But I'm just really curious on how that works.
Well, I can tell you, like from the start, like the first original like homebrew I did was just from at the end of the day at supermarkets. Like they were like 19p for a kilo. So it was just like maybe I'll just grab 3 of these because yeah, they'd have just ended up in the bin or anything like that. So sort of walking around seeing stuff that was eventually going to be thrown in the bin. So yeah, just pick them up like literally as the whole potato. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Because again, I don't think any of us walk around a supermarket, even like Joe from like Joe Homebrews and stuff. Like, do you ever walk around a supermarket and go, I could brew with this?
No.
That feels like a new exciting challenge.
Yeah.
Of, like, find something really interesting and then just be like, can I brew with it? Like,
No, it's awful. I think if you go around with people who aren't brewers themselves and they're like, they would dread taking me to the supermarket now because I look at dry ingredients as well and I'm like, there's something we could do with this, yeah. And I think, very much is something like that you probably would hate going to the supermarket with me because I'll be around there for half an hour just looking, just speaking to the guys as well. I'm like, what do you guys normally throw away? Like, what doesn't work? And I think when you see, like, even Lidl themselves, they do, like, wonky carrots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it just came from that as well. And, like, we were realising how much of that stuff that was even wonkier that people were just throwing. And we don't need to worry about what it looks like because when we peel it and dice it or anything like that, it makes no difference to us. Yeah, so
I find that's crazy, isn't it? It's like you're like, oh, you could get this bag of like wonky carrots for cheaper than you can get like the other bags, and it's only because, like you said, it's wonky. And I can't. Like, I'll take the bargain.
Yeah,
like, that's great. I'll take those. Yeah. But it's just like you kind of go, but it's a carrot.
Oh, well, see, the best thing about it is when we did the potato, like I was peeling, and we made some chips while the boil was on. So for some other potatoes we didn't need.
Some for the boils.
Yeah, exactly. So we might as well keep ourselves fed. So yeah, like we just had some real fun with it. Yeah, just sort of eating, had a few chips, and then sort of playing around and stuff like that. So yeah, we've got some really cool stuff on the way. Like there's some really cool ideas we've got going forward and stuff like that. And again, it's just all, we really want to educate people and bring them on the journey with us as well and sort of show really what you can do.
I think I've got one. There's one final question that I've got from my end, and it's a big controversial question.
Oh, here we go.
I like controversial questions, so let's go.
This is really controversial. Would you ever consider making a pumpkin beer?
Oh, I can't believe you've asked, without doubt. So I was
worried. It was when you were like, I can't believe you asked that. I thought you were going to be like, immediately,
absolutely
no.
Not.
Why would you ask that question?
Oh, definitely. It's funny you say that because when we first originally started using carrots, my idea was like, let's do like a pumpkin pie, like a real sweet style beer.
Yeah.
We want to do like pumpkin pie without doubt.
We're not being difficult. We're just asking for a pumpkin spice or a pumpkin
pie exactly,
beer. That's all we want. That's all we want.
Definitely, like without doubt, we want to bring that real vibrant orange colour, and maybe that'll be something again with carrots and pumpkin, and we want to make it slightly sweeter. Oh yeah, I'm actually really glad you asked that because that was my initial question straight away. But it's just tracking down the pumpkins first, so look out for it. Halloween.
Have to use specific pumpkins so when we've done our controversial pumpkins, but they shouldn't be controversial. But let's be real, that like in the UK it's controversial. The pumpkin spice situation. We've done those episodes. It's like looking into it. It's like it is specific. You kind of have to use specific pumpkins to bring out the specific flavors.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like kind of. I guess if you were sort of looking at it from a sustainability perspective, are there pumpkins that are the normal Halloween pumpkins, the carving pumpkins that maybe aren't as sweet, but if you're looking at also using carrots or something else, like is there a combination that maybe you could get that sweeter vibe or that
I think so. And the thing is, for us, which I find really easy, like coming from a food background myself, like the pumpkins are great, like, but we can find like the spices ourselves, like the cinnamon and the extra, like the clove and stuff like that. They're things that really are so easy, and there's no issue in sustainability from adding them. So I think from the food background, I think you guys should watch out for that because I think we know exactly what pumpkin pie should taste like, and I think it's going to come out really, really well.
I really hope that is like, to me, that was like, I feel like this is a controversial question, and it was the second you went, I'm like, I can't believe you've asked that. I was like, oh no,
just cross the line.
Go, hell no. no pumpkin, because that's normally the reaction you get from people. Like,
I bet,
like
yeah.
about 75%. It's not everyone, because some
Yeah,
people go, oh, I don't know, probably not. About 75% is like, oh. I get tagged by so many people that I'm friends with that, like, anytime there's a meme that's like an anti-pumpkin spice, like an anti-pumpkin beer meme, they'll tag me in that, and they'll be like, look,
really?
this is for you, and I'm like, you know, I love it, don't
Well,
you?
I think you've done really well now, because actually now I can go over to the guys and say, well, look, people are asking for it.
Yeah.
There's a market.
We are.
Don't talk numbers. Don't talk numbers. Just go, there's a market.
There's a
And
market.
Yeah,
they
of
will-
course. Yeah,
and they
yeah,
will
yeah,
buy
yeah.
it, because
Yeah,
like
definitely.
every year we look for what is on sale, and it fluctuates, and sometimes there's a few things, because sometimes things get imported, and sometimes there is literally, it's like a barren wasteland of pumpkins.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
And we get really sad.
We get really sad.
And I think, especially when you see, like, a lot of guys do that now, don't they? They go to, like, the pumpkin patch, and, you know, you go around Halloween, you go see them, like, pick pumpkins and things like that. And
my dream.
without doubt, so many of them would end up thrown away. So, yeah. Look out for that.
Oh,
Yes.
I'll go pick. Literally, I have said this. We've said this on like every pumpkin episode that we've ever had. Like, volunteer as tribute. If you need someone to just go pick pumpkins, like, I will go and just pick the pumpkins for you. Like,
Well, maybe
like,
that's the
if you have
story.
it,
And then you
I
bring
will
them
go
and
do
we'll brew
it.
together, and then you guys
will
can
do
do
it.
a brew, and you can make a small sort of
Amazing.
feature with
I
us
will be
guys.
like-
And you pick the pumpkins, you have some fun, and then you come over to us. We'll give you a few beers, and then we'll brew. We'll brew a small like homebrew batch. Yeah,
That
sure.
sounds
Maybe
amazing.
that's the
I will
episode.
for anyone that wants to brew a pumpkin beer, I'm like free labour. I will do it. I'll bring the ingredients. I'll bring the
Let's do it,
cinnamon.
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I'm here.
Definitely, no, that'd be
Guys.
fun. That's a fun story, because I have my own sort of like in our sort of development area. We anything we do at first, we use like the small 30-litre class time before we sort of batch up. So yeah, definitely, like, by all means, yeah,
Music
that'd be
to
funny.
ears. That was the last controversial question.
That's all right.
That was a good question.
We've kept you an hour, and I was like gonna ask that question before we go if we're talking about food. Joe, do you have any other questions on your side?
I think we have to end it. That is the best question. That was so good.
Yeah.
She didn't put that on the script or
That's not
anything.
on the
She kept
script.
that one
That's not
totally
on
to
the-
herself.
That's not on the laundry list of notes that I made.
No.
That was just an ad hoc. I was like, so you're talking about potatoes and carrots. What about pumpkins?
That's great. No, that's a great question.
And so I think the really important thing is, where can people get your beer?
So our website will be set up literally in the coming weeks, in the coming months.
Amazing.
And then you can get them directly from there. And we'll be looking to be anywhere. Like, we've had some great conversations with people who are really pushing the sustainability message. We're looking to do some great collaborations also with other brewers, other companies who will basically just talk about sort of pasta elements as well. So we're really looking to sort of just expand that and sort of cut the sort of process. And again, probably what I forgot to mention originally is, like, we see a lot about the fact that the actual kilning process of the grain itself is one of the most unsustainable parts. So just by naturally using pasta and not having to toast or germinate your grain, you know, it has a really good opportunity for anyone to be able to cut their sort of carbon footprint down. So yeah, we've been sort of looking everywhere. So I'd say definitely look out for us. We'll be all over the place.
Nice.
So we'll post a link to your Instagram and everything.
Oh, thank you so much.
If anyone that is a brewery sort of like happens to listen to this and is like, I want to do a collaboration, I'm guessing, can they just sort of reach out? And
Of course they can, yeah, and obviously grab a couple of beers and try them, because I know it is quite interesting until you try it that you are slightly confused or slightly not sure about it. But yeah, of course, anyone can sort of get involved, and we'll sort of show the process as well. So yeah, it'll be fun for everyone.
Are you going to be at London?
We are, yeah.
Alright,
We'll be in London.
Well, I'll see you at London. Joe will see you at London.
I'll see you at London Craft Beer
This
Festival.
should hopefully come out before London.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll see us about.
If you're
Yeah,
there,
definitely.
Go and say hi. Go try the beer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'd be great to see you. And again, any other questions, we are always welcome to sort of answer. And we love new people coming over and having a question. So yeah, by all means, just give us a shout. Even if it's a silly question, yeah, just get involved.
You
and
said
ask.
you like the controversial questions. Go ask.
Yeah, ask me
About
directly.
pumpkin
Yeah.
spice.
I think you'll panic the guys otherwise. So just ask the Christian if you're asking any controversial questions, because you will make them sweat.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. This has
Thank
been
you so much for
No
your
worries,
time.
guys. Thank you for having me.
This has been amazing.
Beers are great.
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mine are basically gone.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
This graph, like, I mean, we're talking at the end of this now.
Yeah.
But this like cider bit is incredibly interesting,
I love it.
and I just want to keep drink. Like,
Yeah.
I would have never been like put this on ice, and now I'm
No.
like, put this
Do
on
I
ice.
have
Like,
ice?
I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I find it. We were saying during the episode, it's like, yes, okay, apple can be an off flavour, but it doesn't land in an off flavour way, and it's just incredibly interesting. So I could just drink.
It just tastes like you're biting into an apple.
Yeah.
Like the off flavour of apple is often green apple, and I find that comes across as a bit more like green apple washing up liquid. Whereas is like, I'm eating an apple.
Can I say something that definitely will get me cancelled?
Yeah, go on then.
Like, what happens if you put a little bit of a cinnamon sugar rim?
Oh,
on that
here
glass?
we go. It's happening. I like a cinnamon sugar ring would be good on
I'm
this.
just saying.
And it's over ice, mate.
Over ice, cinnamon sugar rim. He's going to be like, Christian's going to be like, I did not co-sign this.
I did not co-sign this. It's not allowed.
This was not what I co-signed.
We'll go up to him at
did
London
not
Craft Beer
co-sign
Festival and
any
be like,
rims, and I'll be like, I've got a gimmick for you for next craft beer festival.
but what if?
What if cinnamon sugar rim?
Cinnamon sugar rim. Brown sugar or regular sugar? Ooh.
Ooh,
Regular
it has
sugar.
to be a little mix of both, I
Ooh.
think, personally. You need the textures. You need the granulated sugar texture, but you need that brown sugar. Maybe a Demerara if you're feeling
Ooh.
feeling feisty.
Getting fancy.
If you're feeling saucy, get a bit of Demerara in there. It's a bit of a hybrid between the two.
Ooh.
I know my sugar.
She sure does.
I know my pasta and I know my sugar. But yeah, no, that was like, honestly, that was an absolute pleasure having that conversation. I'm so glad he took the pumpkin question so well. That could have gone one of two ways, and it went the better of the two ways. The really better of the two ways. So
if you happen to be at London Craft Beer Festival, make sure you pop over and try these because Vienna Lager is good. I did say we had a little conversation, like when we had it at Bristol, I found that when I had it on keg that the bitterness was a bit high, but I don't know whether they've had a tweak of it or whether in can it's slightly different, but it's good. It's got that good like caramelly toastiness to it that I like from a Vienna Lager.
They're all just really sessionable and really like, lovely as well. And I think like I'm shocked that that's like first proper podcast that he's been on.
He was great.
That he's been on because like I was like,
professional
you're basically
podcaster.
You're doing the job better than me. Stop it. I cannot have that. That is.
Not allowed.
I'm not even gonna get to do We Are Slushy because he is gonna come and kick me out like out of the way because that was really great.
Beer Graph, will it slushy?
Yeah, I mean, did I think about that? I don't know. Maybe I did. But yeah, no, that was lovely, and these are all really sessionable beers that I feel like, and I feel like they're all. I like what he said about how they don't want to make something like. As much as I love a crazy adjunct or something weird and wonderful and unique and like a one-off, I actually really quite like, and it makes sense with the whole sustainability thing, the idea that it's like, well, actually, we don't want something that is just going to be too wacky, that it's just not a gimmick, but like that it's almost like, oh, people only want to get it as a one-off. Like you want to have something that's a little bit more... a core range of fridge filler, if you will. I use fridge filler in like a positive way, where some people use it in a negative way. I use fridge filler as like this is what I want to have in my fridge when I have friends around and I don't want to sit there and think about the complexities or the crazy adjuncts or the weird unique things that have been done to that beer. Like for me, a fridge filler is like, it's easy to drink, it's nice to drink, you enjoy it, you want to share it with people, and it's easy to get hands on because it is a repeatable thing you can buy. It's not just like a one-off, we did this thing this one time and that's it. And I feel like these are like so perfect for that because they're equally all sessionable, easy to drink, perfect no matter the weather, really. I feel like they would shine in the sun just as much as they would be good. Like that Vienna Lager with those caramelly notes would be just as good in the colder, more miserable weather. And I feel like there's stuff that I could share with people that they're almost more, while a person that really enjoys beer would very much like them, they are also very friendly to people new into craft.
Yeah, definitely.
So I feel like they're approachable.
Easy. Approachable's the word.
Approachable.
Yes.
They're approachable. Like sometimes you can just have something that is like no frills, very well executed, and it can be just as approachable for someone new into craft as it is for someone that just really enjoys, for example, a very good Vienna Lager.
Definitely.
These are completely, I would recommend these to people that are like wanting to be sustainable and promote sustainability, but also that are like, I just want a really good core range beer in my fridge. And
definitely.
If you live with a cider drinker, like I've got a friend who
the
enjoys
graph
cider,
will go down really well.
The graph will go down really well.
Maybe not with the cinnamon sugar rim though.
I mean, I say cinnamon sugar all day, but that's me. I mean, the thing is, like, I like the idea of a cinnamon sugar rim, but that's because I don't actually go through the process of executing the cinnamon sugar rim.
Right, she likes to talk about it. She talks big.
I've had it. No. I've had it back in my US days. It's like you go to a bar and that's what they do with pumpkin beers and cider. Like when you did sort of start getting hard ciders, as we called them, you would get like the cinnamon sugar rim, but like you get that at a bar. No one would ever really do that at home.
It's messy.
Because it's messy.
I tried it once.
A lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort.
Just like, so you're like, I'll have someone else do it and I'll drink.
Yeah.
What somebody else is doing.
Because then you got to clean the glass afterwards. Like, I don't want that stuff around my good beer glass.
I go all around the edge of it. It's great.
Anyway, these guys are going to be at London Craft Beer Festival. This should come out before then, so go and see them. We will both be at London Craft Beer Festival, so come and say hello to us as well. But if you can't make it to London Craft Beer Festival, Tori, where can people come and berate you for talking about cinnamon sugar rims?
I'm just going to be like, la, 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 I cannot hear you.
Or for your tips on how to do a proper cinnamon sugar ring.
I don't have any tips because, again, I just said I don't do it myself. I let somebody else do the manual work for me of that cinnamon sugar rim. And I feel like I can't even pretend that I like it because I'm not going to say where I am. I will be at London on the Saturday. I will be helping out a brewery, but I'm not going to say where. You could just find me. And if you don't, that makes it even better because it's like I've blended in and you don't know who I am, and that's great. But I feel like if I admit too hard to liking a cinnamon sugar rim, I might not be helping out London Craft Beer Festival. So I'm like, we'll just take that a step back, rewind that back. But yeah, I will be at London, and if you want to say hi, you want to kind of find out, you know, who I'm definitely going to go check out on the session that I've got free, give me a shout. I'm on Instagram, adventures_in_hoptimism or adventuresinhoptimism@gmail.com. And pretty much through my Instagram, you can get all the links to all the things that I'm not keeping up with. So that's probably the best way to find me, the Instagram that I'm not also keeping up with. But I share stories, so if you tag me in a story, I'll probably share it because that's minimal effort and that's what my brain can handle. Joe, if people want to see you at London Craft Beer Festival, where can they see you? And I'll let you do the plug for the podcast as well.
Okay,
my
thanks.
brain's dead.
I mean, just you'll come. You'll see me. You'll see me at London Craft Beer Festival.
You'll see me.
You'll see me.
Don't worry.
Or you can message me and be like, "Hey, I'm at London Craft Beer Festival. Where you at?" And I might reply to you. You can do that.
I don't see you. Where are you?
Yeah. You can find me at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Pinterest. I'm mostly on Instagram, so just come say hi there. You can also come to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. There's no cinnamon sugar rims there, I'm sorry. But you
Not
can
yet.
email
Wait,
me.
give it a few months. It'll be good. Fine.
Maybe that's the next blog post, right? I have to do tips on how to do it. That feels like
you need to do it before October.
Yeah, it needs to be in October.
That's September time. It's harvest time.
Yeah,
cinnamon
that's
sugar
when I
rims
need to do
at
it.
ready.
Or you can email me with your tips for cinnamon sugar rims if you've got any, which is
Number one, don't.
lovebeerlearning@gmail.com.
Nope.
Or you can get hold of both of us on the podcast account, which is A Woman's Brew, and you can email us at awomansbrewpodcast@gmail.com.
Berate us both. Just go
Why not?
Immediately no, don't do that.
Why not?
No cinnamon sugar rim, no pumpkin spice.
Stop it.
Get out. And we'll probably go like, cool, deleted. It's fine.
We'll just ignore
You can try that.
On that note, I'm going to go finish this graph because it is a beauty.
I'm going to drink my Vienna.
Cheers.
Cheers.